What's up, you guys? It's Steve here, and let's talk about fourth federal level stimulus checks for everybody in the nation as they are making a comeback. This is your stimulus package and stimulus check update. Now, take a look, you guys. Tons of articles have been coming out lately as they're saying we need this stimulus check update. Whitehouse aims to replenish pandemic funds, and we heard that the president wanted to include in that omnibus bill additional stimulus spending to help combat the pandemic. But we're hearing that there are now calls also for stimulus checks to be included as well. Take a look. President Biden's White House is calling for further funding for pandemic testing and treatments, but hasn't ruled out further stimulus checks. We're hearing that this could be potentially an option. Also, war and inflation have people calling for more stimulus checks. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has had ripple effects throughout the global economy, and we're seeing gas prices skyrocketing. We're hearing that there's nothing that we can do right now to kind of stop them in the short term, and they're saying the only thing we might be able to do is put money in people's pockets to help pay for this increased gas prices in the form of stimulus checks. And take a look at this, you guys. High gas prices prompt calls for tax breaks and stimulus checks. I'm going to be diving into these articles, letting you know the latest about where things stand with a fourth federal level check. Now, before we dive in though, if you could do me a quick favor, just takes a second. If you appreciate these updates, keeping you up to speed on everything going on, because things are shifting and changing. And as I mentioned, as we go throughout the year, it's looking more and more likely that there's going to be increased calls and pressure for stimulus checks. If you appreciate these, if you could do me a quick favor, and that is simply smash that like button for me for the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Just takes a second. It really helps me out a ton. Also, leave your comments, share this out. If this is your first time here and you want to stay up to date, totally free, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. You can come join the Ram fam. And if you got any specific questions for me, I'm easy to get a hold of directly. All you got to do is hop onto Instagram, shoot me a DM at SteveRam3. Oh, and consider joining my second channel, Steve Ram Finance, to learn about growing wealth, personal finance, and catch the latest updates on our newest house flip project. But with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and dive right in and get you caught up on the latest that's coming out right now about fourth federal level stimulus checks. All right, so first up, link in the description below to this article that's going to be giving us a little bit of an update on stimulus checks and the White House. And it says, White House aims to replenish pandemic funds. It says, with pandemic funds quickly running dry, the White House is now calling on Congress to swiftly approve more funding that will continue to bolster pandemic testing supplies and guarantee that uninsured Americans keep receiving free treatments for the virus. Now, it says perhaps if this funding is just the start, there could possibly be more direct financial help that could help out Americans in the form of stimulus checks. And this is exactly how we've seen it before with the other stimulus packages. We'll see phases come out, maybe for businesses, unemployment, for battling the pandemic, and then we'll see a new phase for direct assistance to people. So stimulus checks, child tax credits, things that'll put money in people's pockets. Now, from the pandemic side, the bank account is empty, said Deputy Coordinator Natalie Quillen, per the Associated Press. We're in conversations with lawmakers about how to secure the funding, but it is urgently needed, she said. And you guys, we're hearing that there is more funding that's going to be needed to help combat the pandemic and even assist people with the increased gas prices and inflation. Now, one of the things, too, I mentioned to you here on the channel is that there's over $800 billion of leftover stimulus funds from previous packages that's unused, just sitting there, nearly $1 trillion. And just to let you know how much that is, that could supply a fourth and a fifth stimulus check on a federal level to everyone in the nation of $1,400. Two $1,400 stimulus checks. Now, Americans are still hurting and saying they need this. Over the course of the last 2 years long of this health crisis, Congress has approved 3 direct payments to most eligible Americans. A $1,200 check, a $600, and a $1,400 payment. They went out through President Donald Trump and also President Joe Biden in that American Rescue Plan. But all across the country, the pandemic is still causing headaches, and the current high inflation pressures are only continuing to get worse, putting even more strain on the pocketbooks of ordinary pandemic-weary Americans. And with a full year in the rearview mirror since the passage of the American Rescue Plan, there are still plenty of passionate calls for more stimulus checks. That is right, you guys. It has been almost a full year now since we saw that American Rescue Plan passed and we had those third stimulus checks. However, the current White House call for more funds is around $16 billion that will ultimately go towards antibody treatments, preventative injections for the immune compromised, and community testing sites, officials have said. This is an urgent request, and this is what is at stake in our fight against the pandemic, said White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. Given how costly the pandemic has been, with so many of our fellow Americans hospitalized and dying, and our daily lives disrupted, we simply cannot afford to wait on investing now and keeping people protected. However, it says, but that does not mean that another round of stimulus payments is entirely off the table. In January, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki admitted during a press conference that they were in constant conversations when asked about direct payments for Americans. And so you guys, stimulus checks, child tax credits, provisions that will put money in people's pockets is still a possibility, and we're hearing is getting more and more called for with increased gas prices. As, take a look, you guys, war and inflation have people calling for more stimulus checks. Now, the article says that gas prices are well past $4 per gallon, inflation is high across the economy, and Russia's war in Ukraine has led to a worldwide economic disruption. With all of that happening at once, it is now time for more stimulus checks. And we heard that energy economist Mark Wolf made that case in a recent article for CNN. His argument was that inflation is costing Americans as much as $300 per month, and the government should step up with more stimulus checks. And you guys, that would be $300 per month going out to American families. The fastest and most effective way to protect vulnerable citizens from the impacts of global economic instability is to provide a direct payment through the IRS, similar to the 3 stimulus checks that were sent to families during the height of the pandemic, Wolf wrote. Those checks helped low to moderate income households when schools and childcare programs were closed and companies were laying off workers. Now, his argument, though, is to direct stimulus payments to lower income families. Wolf advised the White House is to ask Congress to authorize payments of $1,100 per household to pay for 4 months of higher prices going forward, and then provide an option for the president to provide a second or even third check to lower moderate income families for an additional 4 months in the event that prices remain high. So he's saying send out one $1,100 check. 4 months later, consider sending out another one, and then consider it again as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, you guys. That is one of the pushes, and lawmakers have actually already provided some legislation suggesting stimulus checks to go out on a quarterly basis. Take a look, you guys. High gas prices prompts calls for tax breaks, stimulus checks. Gas prices have soared since the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, adding extra pressure to consumers already dealing with higher costs at the pump after a year of rapid inflation. Now, in response, the Biden administration has been aggressively exploring ways to make up for the loss of Russian oil imports, which the U.S. banned last week. Most experts, though, say there's little that the president can do to substantially reduce the gas prices in the short term. And we actually heard this from the president himself, saying, you guys, there's not much at this time in the short term that we're going to be able to do. We're just simply going to have to deal with the fact that in the support of Ukraine and letting the world know that we do not support Russia in banning this oil, we're simply going to have to deal with increased gas prices. And they're saying the only way probably that we're going to be able to help out people at this time to deal with this is to simply send out more stimulus checks. And right now, there is a ton of calls and a ton of talk about getting this done. And jumping down in the article, it says the sad truth is that there is no quick fix for this. So you guys, gas prices are going to be increasing. We're hearing there's not much that can be done. We're going to be seeing if stimulus checks might come out to help out people, because this is just going to be the way it is for a little while here. And we will see. I'll keep you up to date here on the channel. But you guys, that is the latest. A lot of calls recently for stimulus checks. They are back on the table. We're hearing negotiations are taking place for the Build Back Better bill, more stimulus reconciliation. And you guys, I will keep you up to date on everything here on the channel. And it's looking more and more like checks could be a possibility. So, like I said, I'll let you know. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far and you haven't already, don't forget, take a quick second, smash that like button for me for the YouTube algorithm. Helps out a ton. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Also, leave your comments, share this out. If this is your first time here and you like to stay up to date, totally free to do so. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. If you got any specific questions for me, shoot them to me in the DM on Instagram at SteveRam3, and consider joining my second channel, Steve Ram Finance, to learn about growing wealth and personal finance. But with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for joining me once again, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.